Okay, so today we're going to try to apply some of these five-way techniques that we learned, especially the five-way substitute lead, to a sax solo. So I've composed a very, very short passage here that might be a good lead line for a sax solo, and we're going to go ahead and just see what happens. We're going to throw it at it, see if it sticks. Anyway, so let's talk about a couple ways that we can approach this, though. So first of all, kind of like we did last semester, when you're harmonizing a melody, first thing you're going to do, so number one here, is you analyze your melody to determine where approach techniques are absolutely needed. So let's go ahead and do that very quickly on here. And if you look at this melody, you'll find, like in this D minor 11 chord here, all of those notes are totally cool with D minor 11. They all belong to that D minor 11 chord. They're all viable substitutions or chord tones to go with that chord. So we don't have to write any here. But once we start going, as we learned last semester, every once in a while, if you want to create good voice leading, you might have to use an approach technique to do that. So then in, for instance, this G7 altered here, same thing applies. We don't have to do any approach techniques here. Let's look over here. I'll bring this up so we can make sure we see it. C13 with a sharp 11, I'm hitting 100% so far. We don't have to do any approach techniques here, but we might want to later. Let's take a look at this bar, though, however. This bar is a little tricky. We have an F13 with a flat 9, and dominants tend to have all kinds of different substitutions that we can do on them. However, once again, it's important to think about what the chord scale is that you're going to use for that bar. Or, sometimes the chord scale can change across the bar. Maybe you could start off the bar with a more benign sort of sound like Lydian dominant or mixed Lydian, and then maybe go towards an altered sound towards the end of the bar. Billy Strayhorn actually would do it backwards sometimes. He would start out with altered and then go to Lydian dominant. But in this case, I think we're going to stick with the chord scale for this particular bar, which in this case is auxiliary diminished, right? Auxiliary diminished. So there's one note in this bar that does not conform to that auxiliary diminished scale. And did you spot it? It's the C sharp here. So we definitely have to, I'm going to go ahead and just put an A above that, meaning that we have to do an approach on that particular note. So we're not going to assign an approach yet to it. We just want to kind of do an inventory and see which ones we are going to have to use approaches on. And then let's look at this last bar here. I think you probably see it shining right out at you there. That G flat is another one that we would have to use in approach technique on. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that one too. And so now we have our lead line analyzed. Only two places where we have to use an approach technique. So as we go on with the harmonization of this, maybe we'll choose some other places that we'll want to use an approach technique. Okay, so just as we talked about last semester, a lot of times working backwards is a good idea. And actually number 2 and 3 here and 4, these kind of all go together. So, a lot of times what I'm thinking about doing is maybe looking for my long note values first, as the voicings on your long note are generally going to be more important than the voicings on your short notes. And that makes sense, right? We hear the long notes longer. So we want to make sure that that is a very interesting and nice sounding harmony, because we're going to listen to it for a little bit longer than an eighth note or a triplet. So like one of my target spots would definitely be this A flat here, which lasts for a beat and a half. That's actually the longest note value we have in this passage. Another one would be this B here, which is, it's not that long. It's an eighth note plus a triplet. So it's really not that long, but it is longer than an eighth note. So we're going to hear it a little bit longer. The other places that I like to maybe concentrate on are the sort of the cadential areas. So here's one right here. This C is not going to be harmonized as F13 flat 9 because there's a rest after it. So this is a harmonic anticipation of this B flat major 13, so I'm going to harmonize that as B flat major 13. And then here, this note at the end is going to be pretty important because that's what we're going to leave the listener, hearing in their head after we leave this particular passage, after the rests here. So, I mean, maybe one thing we can do is just start at the end and work our way backwards. So I think we'll go ahead and do that and just go ahead and start filling this in. So the idea is we're going to try to do 5-way substitute lead as much as possible. But, maybe every once in a while we'll do a double lead, or maybe every once in a while we can even throw in a spread voicing or two. One thing I forgot to do on this, which is going to help me a lot, is to actually copy this melody down to the bass clef, which I'm going to do here really quickly. And I'm going to use well, first of all, I'm going to transpose it down by an octave, and then I'm going to use my filter here to get rid of the chord symbols. So get all of those out of there. Okay, so that's much cleaner now, and now I have kind of a nice palette to work from. As a matter of fact, let me see. I'll keep our reminders up here on the screen. Okay, so let's just go through it melodically. We're going to start, once again, well, we can't keep our reminders on the screen if we're going to start at the end. So I'll just keep reminding you of those. So let's just go ahead, first of all, let's just try to do this with 5-way substitute lead as much as we can. We really just want to, try to get into that technique on this exercise. So let's be very methodical about this. So this is a fairly low tessitura note. Oh, by the way, this passage here, even though it goes up to this high G here, I mean, that is playable on an alto sax. So this could be an alto lead or it could be a soprano lead. It's kind of your choice as far as choosing the orchestration on this one. But once again, a lot of times the tessitura is going to determine or help you to determine the type of voicing technique that you're going to use. So let's try it on this one here. So 5th category, if maybe we want to start with a close voicing and see how that works out. So our next one down would be a 3rd category. Next one down would be root category, and we could sub a 9 in there. But once again, a lot of times on a major 7th chord, I do like to put in you know what, let's go ahead. This is really, now you know what, I was going to put a key signature on it, but we won't. I won't put any key signature. A lot of times I do like to include an unsubstituted root because it's going to give us that half step, right, with the 7th there. So that would be a great 4-voice, simple 4-voice, 4-way close voicing. But you know what? We want to try to do 5-way substitute lead. Now here's where we're going to run into an issue on this one. If we take this F down an octave and we go to our chart and we look for the possible substitutions on a major 7th chord or a major 13th chord, we're going to see that our one possible substitution for the 5th is the sharp 11. Guess what? If we write that sharp 11 there, we're going to have this flat 9 interval. So we're actually not going to be able to do that in this case. So we have to look to some of our other notes for possible subs on this one. So we're not actually going to be doing a sub lead, we're going to be subbing for one of the other notes in this voicing. So the other 2 notes that we could sub for would be the root or the 7th. I'm just going to go ahead and make an executive decision here, and I'm going to sub for the 7th, and you can do this. Check this out. I'm going to sub for the 7th in the same octave that 7th is in. So we end up getting sort of this G minor 9 looking structure here. Oops. So that's got, qualities of major 13 in it. It's got qualities of major 7th. It's got qualities of like a B flat 6 chord in it. Other options, right? There are quite a few other options. We could go with this sort of option here. Maybe we'll like this one better. You know what? I like that one better. It's more cadential to me, right? It's a little bit, maybe a little bit old-fashioned, perhaps, but I like it. Let's stick with that one. So we're actually going to just basically end our cadence there on a B flat 6/9 chord. I like it. All right. So we like this voicing. We're going to keep that. Let's go to the voicing before that. So we've already determined that this must be some sort of an approach technique here. Since that melody is moving chromatically, we could actually just use a chromatic approach there. Guess what? That note there is also moving chromatically. What if we tried using, remember, we can use, whoops, wrong button. We can use 2 chromatics in a row as long as our melody is moving in half steps, which it is here. So I think maybe for the best voicelating here, what if we just do that? We're just going to go ahead and move all 3 of these voices down by half steps. So here I'd have a E flat, right, and a D flat below that, moving both chromatically to this last voicing. And then here I would have a, let's see, I would have a C flat. I'm just going to spell it as C flat. Oops, what happened to my natural there? Okay, here we go. And an A flat. Okay, so now we have a chromatic approach to this one. Now we're going to do a chromatic approach to the approach. So next one down. And by the way, this doing it backwards in Sibelius also, it makes it so you don't have to necessarily type in, you know, or retype some of these accidentals, right? D, D flat, C, right, is going to be 1. Here we're going to have C, A, right? Let's hear how that sounds. Do that again, and I'm going to make it bigger. There we go. Okay, I think that sounds pretty good. That's not bad. All right, let's keep moving backwards. Let's take a look at this one here. So remember, this note here is going to be harmonized as B flat major 13, right? Because it's on the and of 4, and it's got a rest going into 1 there. So that's going to be an anticipation, a harmonic anticipation of that B flat major 13. So, you know, this is a little bit higher tessitura. Maybe we could try drop 2 on this one. I'm going to go ahead and just go for it. Let's just go for drop 2. So that's a root category note. Our next one down would be the 7th. Let's go ahead and just use the major 7th on there. We're going to see what happens. Next one down would be the 5th. How about we just put in good old unsubstituted 5th, see how that goes. 3rd, and there we have a complete 4-way voicing, but now we want to go down approximately an octave and sub for that lead. So we're going to put in the 1 sub for that lead, which is going to be the root itself. So we get this. I think that sounds pretty nice. Okay, doing pretty good so far. At this point, I kind of get the feeling there's going to be a really cool way to approach this particular lick here. Once again, this, and you know, this comes from a lot of experience and writing lines like this. The auxiliary diminished scale is a symmetrical scale that I think we've talked about this interval of symmetry idea. The interval of symmetry in an auxiliary diminished scale is a minor third. So things tend to be symmetrical in minor thirds. So I might want to think about some idea that has some symmetry here, especially going from this note to this note. This, to me, seems a prime candidate for another couple of chromatic approach tones. So let's go ahead and, you know, in the spirit of working backwards, let's go ahead and harmonize this note here, and we'll see what happens after that. So if this is going to be the lead note, and if we're going to use drop 2 to kind of match this last one here that we have, that's the 5th category. Next one down would be the 3rd category. And all of a sudden, even just as I wrote that, I see we're going to have some sort of issue here with repeated notes. But we'll make that determination later if we want to change that. Let's see how the rest of this goes. So there we had the A, we dropped it. Next one down would be the root. In this case, why don't we sub a flat 9 in for the root? And you're going to find the voice leading here is going to work out really nice, right? Because they have a half step going down to that F in that next voicing. Next one down is the 7th. Hey, check this out. This is looking really nice so far. Okay. And then here, so this is a nice 4-way drop 2 voicing, but we're going to go down approximately an octave again and see what we got down here. So, you know, you could sub in the B, or you can sub in the C. I'm going to go ahead and sub in the C, which is the natural 5 here, and you're going to see why I did that in a second. Can anybody think of a way that we could eliminate that repeated note there? I'll give you 1 second to think about it. Seconds up. All right. How about we just sub for that and put in the 6th there instead of the 7th, right? So that gives us a 5-way B flat 6-9 chord, and we're ending up with a B flat 6-9 chord. So guess what I'm going to do? Whoops. And you might be asking, well, how can you do that? And I will answer you, I'm the arranger. I can do that. I think it sounds good. So I'm going to change it. So, I mean, you know, but at the end of the day, a major 13 chord and a 6-9 chord have that same sort of function, right? A 1 function. So it's just a different sound for the two. Okay. So I'm going to skip over this. Like, once again, I think this is going to be probably best served as chromatic. But let's look at this voicing first. Remember, we're going to hear this voicing for a long time. So let's just go through this methodically and see what we come up with. So once again, this is the same category here, right? That's actually the 5th category. Next one down would be the 3rd. I'm going to go ahead and drop that. Okay. Next one down would be then the root. So I could go ahead and put in that same G flat here. If I wanted to. Next one down would be seventh, right? And then we could go down approximately an octave from that. And maybe sub, what if we sub in the 13 there, right? Now, that's kind of okay, except when we go from this particular voicing here to this voicing here, and we do these chromatic, well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and fill those in and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to treat these both. Whoops, how did that happen? All right, I'm going to treat these both here. Let's see. Go ahead and change this to CR, and then I'm going to put another CR right here. So I'm going to do 2 chromatics in a row. Okay. So it's going to be an F sharp leading to that G. This is going to be a D sharp leading to that E. Whoop, actually that's an E flat, so we're going to make that a D natural, right? D natural, that's an E flat, right? F sharp leading to G, D natural leading to E flat. Here we would have a B natural leading to the C, and then a G sharp leading to our A. Okay, let's go back one more step here. F natural, very good. Before that we'd have a C sharp leading to the D. Okay, here we would have a B flat, and then here we would have a G natural. Okay, so how do our lines look? Not bad. Ba 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 da da. Right here, let me, like, for instance, let me play for, well, here's the lead. The lead line goes, right, which is kind of cool lead. But listen to my second line now. It's okay. It's all right. But I'm going to change something here, and I'm going to break a rule. So once again, remember, this chord scale is symmetrical. So watch this. I'm going to mirror this voicing down a minor third. And the way that that's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and drop we're actually going to do, and this is, you're going to kill me for this, because I tell you not to do this all the time, and I feel a little bit bad, but not too bad. I'm actually going to do what is, you're going to see is technically a drop 2 and 3. I know, you're going to kill me. But check this out. You're going to like it. So look, we have our, here's a 5th category. We drop the 2, we drop the 3 all the way down here to the bass clef. We have our 7th, and then we have a sub for our lead there. So that gives us the same voicing here as we have here, but just down a minor 3rd. Check this out. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that's really good. And look at the voice leading that it created now. In other words, our 2nd voice now is going to do this. I like it. 3rd voice. I like it. 4th voice. No, that's blah. That's great, right? I love all of those. Those all have a really nice melodic content to them. So, once again, we don't always have to conform exactly to the rules, and there are creative ways that you can find, solutions to your voicing issues. Remember a little while back when we were learning about some diatonic approach techniques, and we figured out that sometimes using that, symmetrical shape of the scale might be better than following all the rules. And once again, we used it here. Okay, let's keep going backwards and see how we do. So I'm just going to go ahead and fall right back into, my idea of the substitute lead. So wow, this is a pretty high tessitura here, this F. Let's see how this goes. So if I think we're at least going to drop the 2. We might even drop the 4 too. Let's see how that goes. So if we drop the 2 here, we're going to get E flat, which is the 7th of the chord. Next one down would be the 5th. So hey, what if we go with, how about the sharp 11 in this case? E natural. Next one down would be the 3rd. Let's see, so do we want to go for, I think we're going to go for drop 2 and 4 because of that tessitura. So I'm going to drop the 4th voice here, which is going to give me my 3rd and 7th all the way down here in the lower register, which actually I think is going to work out the best for the voice leading and the sound of this. Then we're going to go down approximately an octave from our lead note, and how about we sub in that flat 9? Let's see how that sounds. So it's going to be a G flat. Okay, hey, look at that. We actually did kind of a little bit similar thing. We have that nice major 7th interval there, kind of mirroring what we did over here. Let's go back one more. So, what do we want to do here? I have an idea. This seems ripe for a diatonic approach technique. I'm just going to try it. So sometimes, maybe I'll go ahead and use that approach technique first. So if I do a diatonic one here, I'm going to take all of these notes down one diatonic step. And so once again, I'm using the auxiliary diminished scale, right? One diatonic note down from that B is an A, right? F would be the next one down there. In this case, D natural will be the one down there. And then we'd have actually a G sharp. Okay, there's kind of a glaring problem with this particular voicing. Does anybody spot it? Flat 9 interval. Now, in a passing chord that's this quick, maybe we won't notice it, but I kind of like to be in that good habit of not writing that interval if I don't have to. So let's do this. I want to establish the tonality of this chord right on the downbeat here. So we're going to come back to this one. I'm going to go ahead and write a voicing on here. Hey, I have an idea. What if we wrote the same voicing for here that we did over here? That might actually help us out a little bit as far as kind of establishing that tonality here and maybe hanging on to it throughout the bar. So I'm going to go ahead and write that same voicing, and then let's see what we can do as far as getting from this chord to this chord? I mean, we could. Well, let's see what would happen if we just voiced it, right? So say we have, you know, 7th category there in the lead. I drop the next one down, which would be the 5th. So I could either go for a B natural or a D or a C. I'm going to make it a B natural for now. Next one down would be that A, so that works out okay. Next one down would be the root, right? So I could either just leave it there. Now remember, there is no sub for the 7th here, right? So I'd have to choose one more, or I'd have to choose a different note to sub on it. And I just don't really, you know, I'm kind of looking at this and I don't like my options at this point. This kind of came out pretty nice up here. But here I'm looking at either repeating the C, right? Or going up to an F. I already have an F here. So I'm not really liking this so much. What if we do some sort of other approach? So what are our other options at this point? Well, one that I really like is the dominant approach. Why don't we try that one and see how that works out? So if I'm going to make this a dominant, DT for dominant, right? I think that's the one we use for dominant. So what's the dominant of F13 flat 9? It's some sort of C7. Does the lead note fit? Yeah, it fits really well. That's a sharp 9 on this chord. Next one down would be the 7th category, which I could put here. I'm just going to make that a B flat instead. Next one down would be the 5th category, so I could actually, you know, leave that A natural there or make it an A flat or a G, either way. Tell you what, I'm going to make it an A flat. I'm going to make it like kind of like a C7 altered chord and see how that does. Next one down is the 3rd. So E natural, right? And then next one down would be my substitute lead. So a good substitute lead here for E flat would be D flat, right? So I've created a C7. So this dominant here equals a C7 altered chord, right? The voice leading actually worked out pretty nice. Not bad. Right? So we get a little bit of contrary motion in there, which is nice. Let's see. Nice. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. It's like coming from like a B pentatonic scale. All right, how are we doing so far? Let's listen to how this sounds. Start us off right here. Not bad, not bad. This one's a little funky for me. I might mess around with that later, but let's hear it again. Very, very dense, right? Very, very dense sound. But I'm liking the way that this is coming along. All right. A couple more bars here to go. So, you know, on this one, I have a couple thoughts about this. I'm going to go ahead and go skip this bar for now. And I want to go back here and I want to kind of deal with two things. I want to deal with this long note and I want to deal with this sort of cadential note here. Once again, this is an anticipation of the C13 with the sharp 11. So I'm going to go ahead and voice that one first. Let's see, can we do, what would happen if we did drop 2 here? The tessitura is not super high or super low, it's kind of in the middle. We could really choose either one. I'm just kind of thinking that we might want to spread out a little bit here. So I'm going to try drop 2, see how that works. So remember, we're harmonizing a C13 sharp 11, so that's the 5th category. Next one down is the root category. I'm going to go ahead and sub the 9 in there. Next one down is the 7th. That works pretty well. So here, we can go down approximately an octave for the sub lead. 2 options at this point. We can either go with the 13 or the sharp 11. We would not want to put the sharp 11 though here because that would create flat 9 interval between that G and that E. So a really, really nice note here is going to be that 13, right? So actually, let me just play that out of context for a second. Like that a lot. I think it's going to be nice for that sort of cadential area there. Let's go ahead and harmonize this one. Remember, we want a beautiful harmony here because we're going to hear this for a beat and a half. Well, a little less than that since we're swinging, but you know, what's a couple of milliseconds between friends? Anyway, okay. Root category, right? So maybe thinking about we're leading to a drop 2 voicing, maybe I'd want to go ahead and make this drop 2 as well. Drop that 7th down, works pretty nice. Okay. Next one down would be the 5th category. I love the sound of the flat 13 in there, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, flat 13. Next one down would be our 3rd. You know, I'm going to call it, just to kind of keep track of things here, I'm going to call it C flat, because the C flat is kind of reaching to this B flat down here, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And then here, we're going to go down approximately an octave and sub, and watch what happens here. So I'm going to sub a sharp 9 in. Whoops. Not sure what I did there. Happens. Okay, I'm going to sub in a sharp 9, which is a B flat. See, it's already a B flat here from our melody. And look what we get. We get a chord here that's exactly 1/2 step above what we're ending up here as a voicing, right? And, you know, big reason that's happening is that we have this chord scale relationship here. The parent scale of this particular chord here is A flat melodic minor. Parent scale of this particular chord here is G melodic minor. There's that 1/2 step relationship, right? And this happens in 5/1 relationships quite a bit, especially when we're alternating these sort of colors of chords. Okay, so we have those filled in. I'm pretty happy about those. I like that idea. But then we have to fill in this one here. Now I already see an issue if we try to do this as the same drop 2 idea as we did before, because that's the same category as that lead note. So we would have a couple of repeated notes in there. I don't want to do that. I want to have a more interesting inner line. So you know, remember, a good way to avoid these repeated notes is to maybe change your technique. So I'm going to go ahead and change here to 4-way close. So root category, next one down is the 7th. Next one down is the 3rd category, or excuse me, the 5th category. So I can either sub in the flat 13. In this case, because I'm going down to this B flat, I'm going to sub in the sharp 11. Why not? For fun, right? That might sound cool. Next one down is going to be that 3rd of the chord. Once again, I'm going to spell it C flat to kind of keep things consistent there. And then we're going to go down that octave and sub for that sharp 9. We're going to sub in the flat 9. So we get pretty nice looking lines here. So our second, let's see, I'm going to play the different lines. So here's the lead line is nice. Here's the second line. Nice. 3rd line. Pretty cool. They're all sort of mirroring, you know, the shape of that lead line. Here's the 4th line. That's maybe like the kind of the weirdest sounding one, but I still like it a lot. And then the one, the lowest one. Ooh, I like that one a lot too. Pretty cool. All right. So we got, like I said, that's a pretty important sort of area. We've dealt with this chord here. Actually, let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like. Nice, it's got a lot of color in it. The lines tend to work, they seem to work pretty nice. So looking at this line here now, I'm kind of like scanning along and I'm going, well, what are some things that I can do here to kind of tie things in? Well, first thing I can do is, what if I just repeat that voicing right there on that G? And that'll give me sort of like a point of reference, maybe, for this line. Once again, you don't have to do that. I just thought it might be a good idea to mirror this voicing over here. And then we have some possibilities here, right? Does this look like anything we studied last semester? Last semester we did this, sometimes with 2 notes that would surround a target note, we would use that upper lower. Guess what? I'm going to go lower, upper, lower here. Let's see how that works out. So on my lower ones, remember, probably the best thing to do is we're going to do a chromatic on our lower one. Whoops. C-R. I'm going to use chromatic on the lower one, and then I'm going to try, and we'll see how this works out, I'm going to try a diatonic on the upper one. Because remember, on those upper-lower approaches, a lot of times we like to use chromatic on the lower one and diatonic on the upper one, because that's a lot of times how those sort of work melodically, right? So let's fill in this one first. So we'd have a C sharp, right, leading to that D. We would then have an A leading to that B flat. Here we would have a G sharp leading to that A, and then here we would have a D sharp leading to this E. Now, let's see what happens if we go up diatonically. And once again, this it's not always going to work out, but let's check it out and see how it goes. So we're going to go up one diatonic note. By the way, what's the chord scale I'm dealing with here? Lydian dominant. Yes, the red flag is up. Okay, so one chord note above that, or one diatonic note above D. In that case, it's going to be E. One diatonic note above our target B flat here is going to be a C. One diatonic note above that A there is going to be a B flat. And then one diatonic note above that E is going to be F sharp. All right, so let's check that out. I don't see any big issues there. As a matter of fact, we have a complete C13 sharp 11 chord here. As a matter of fact, if we would have just voiced this down, this is actually a possible voicing that we could have come up with, right? So, we'll see how that works out. And then we're going to go over here, and we're going to make this the same voicing as this one here. Yeah, I think I'm not going to be able to avoid spelling that as C sharp. And then an A there, right? And here we're going to have a G sharp and a D sharp. Oops. Let's try it again. D sharp. Okay. So this gives us, all lines that have kind of a similar idea to them. So our lead line is, right? And then our second line is going to sound like this. Nice. Third line is going to sound like this. Nice. Fourth line is going to sound like this. Cool. Fifth line. All right, let's see how that sounds so far. I'm going to start it from here. Yeah, it's pretty crunchy, but I like it. I like it a lot. All right. So let's see where we're going now here. Hey, where'd that rehearsal mark come from? Let's go to that. Let me do that. So, once again, now we have to kind of see what's happening here. Once again, all these notes here could totally be harmonized as C13 sharp 11, but maybe there's some options here that we could do to make this a little smoother. Kind of just looking at this and kind of thinking about, what might be easy, what might be the easiest notes to harmonize here. This one, to me, would be one of the easier ones to harmonize because, I can visualize a really, really good drop 2 sub-lead voicing for that one. And then maybe some sort of diatonic approach. Here, there is going to be a little bit of an issue because we have 2 notes of the same category, one after the other. Let's just go backwards and see what happens, and then we can kind of tweak things as we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and harmonize this one as C13 sharp 11, which is kind of the same thing as like doing a dominant approach to here, and they're working in cycle. So let's do drop 2 there, right? Which is we're going to drop a B flat down. It's already a B flat here. Next one down might be the 13 subbing for the 5. Next one down might be the 3rd. And then how about the 9th subbing for the root? How did that voice leading work out, going from this bar to this bar? Actually pretty well. We actually got a little bit of contrary motion. So these 2 notes are going to be, these 2 notes here are actually going down. Actually, they're all going down except for the lead, aren't they? So that's actually kind of interesting. We'll see how the lines go after that. Let's see. What if I harmonize this one here? What if we harmonize this one as a 4-way close voicing? And let's see what happens. So in other words, going from this drop 2 voicing to a 4-way close here, we would get something like this. I went ahead and subbed in a natural 5 here. I could also sub in that F sharp. That's pretty cool. What if we try diatonic here? Let's try that. We could, you know, notice I'm not a big fan of parallel. That's another option we have here. Let's see how it goes. So diatonic approach, we would get a G coming down from this. See, I don't like this already, although we could change one other thing here to make this work. We have a D here, which would give us a repeated note. Here we would have a C, and here we would have an A. So I don't like this diatonic approach. It's got 2 problems with it. Flat 9 interval from the lead to the 5th voice, and a repeated note here. What if we did, could we do dominant approach here? Nope. Not going to work, right? We could do parallel approach though, couldn't we? Not a huge fan of that, but well, you know, I guess that we would just have to change one note here to make this parallel. I'll tell you what, before we even do that, let's try just harmonizing it and see what happens. So we got a 7th here. Next note down would be the 5th, and we probably want to keep it as such, so maybe I'll just keep, I can either, something's telling me to make that F sharp. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep that a D, and then I'm going to change that to a C, which I can do, right? Right, that gives us still a fine voicing here. So next one down then, so that's our root category. Next one down would be the 7th. Or, no, we already had the 7th. So we actually have, so here's 7, 5. Oh, we skipped our 3. So we're going to have to drop the 3, aren't we? Or we're going to have a, yeah, so I don't like this. I don't like where this is going. If we did say, we could try a drop 3, but then we're going to have this sort of leap here. Let's go back to the parallel idea and see how we do. So parallel. See, once again, this is not an exact science. Sometimes we got to kind of mess with things. So that's looking good so far. Then we'll leave that A flat in there. That seems to be okay. All right. And actually, I don't mind some of these lines here. They look pretty good, right? So maybe our second line is going to sound like this. I like that. That's nice. Our third line is going to sound like this. Right up the scale. That's not bad. Fourth line is going to sound like this. That's fine. And then our 5th line is going to sound like this. Kind of going up a whole tone scale. Not bad. Let's hear it. I like it. I like it a lot. Very crunchy. It's got that sort of Thad Jones sound to it. I think you guys are going to like it a little bit better when we explode this out into saxophone, which I'm not going to do in this video. We'll do it in the next video. All right, so let's keep working backwards and see how we do. So once again, here I'm sort of maybe thinking about either using some sort of an approach technique here. Yeah, let's try that. Actually, instead of an approach, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mirror this particular voicing here that I already made. Just trying to save a little bit of time. I'm just going to mirror that voicing. All right. C flat, I'm going to call that. And I'm going to call that A flat. Okay, and then here, let's just go ahead and knock this one out. And since this is a 4-way close, let's go ahead and make it, keep this as 4-way close. So that's a third, maybe our next one down. What if we sub in a flat 9, right? Next one down would be a 5th, excuse me, the 7th of the chord, right? Next one down is the 5th, so I could either, how about I sub in that sharp 11 again? Oops, wow, okay. That's fine. And then we cannot sub, right? We cannot sub for that B natural. A little bit of a conundrum here, and I think I figured out how we're going to solve this. So we can't sub for the B natural, right? Because that's a third. We cannot sub for the third in the dominant chord. We could sub for the second voice, though. Here's what I'm going to do. Watch this. I'm just going to make that a root, and then I'm going to sub down here, flat 9. Actually, how about we sub, well, we can't sub the sharp 9 because we'd have a flat 9 interval. This is a bit problematic here, right, because I have repeated A flat. Easily fixed, though. Just change it to a G. How about that? I like it. Let's just harmonize this one here. We'll come back and hear how this sounds in a second. Let's harmonize this one here. That's at the 5th category. I think maybe our best approach here is going to be for drop 2. I'm calling it C flat. Let's try sharp 9, right? Next one down would be our 7th, right? So we have 5th category. We dropped our 3rd, root category, 7th category. Then we go down approximately a octave from that one, and I'd have to sub in at that point. I'd have to sub in a D flat. Now I have a repeated D flat here. What if we do this? Looks legit. Let's see how it sounds. I actually like it. I like it quite a bit. All right, let's keep moving backwards. So this could be a chromatic approach. These could actually be 2 chromatic approaches if we wanted. Let's try just harmonizing this one as D minor 11 and see what we come up with. So that's a root category. Next one down, I think we're going to drop. 7th category. Next one down will be the 5th category. That's looking okay so far. And then we'd have, whoops, 3rd category. Oh, repeated note right here. What if we did a drop 2, 4? No, I don't like it. Next one down would be, maybe some sort of root category. So I don't like the fact that we have repeated note here. So how about we make this one a chromatic approach? How about we make both of these chromatic approach? Why not? Then we're going to harmonize this one here and see what happens. So let's make this one chromatic. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. We'll make this chromatic. And then what if we harmonize the one before that? So this would be a D natural, right, like we had, and a C natural. Okay, not bad. If we harmonize this one, what would we get? So we get, if we drop 2, we get a C, so we'd have a repeated note there. I don't like it already. So let's go ahead and just do a chromatic here. I mean, actually, that would be like, I'm sorry, actually, our root would be the one that we drop, right? Our root would be the one that we drop. So that's actually looking okay. Let's see. Next one down would be the 5th. And then the next one down would be some sort of sub for a 3, which we can't do. So what would we do here? We would have to sub in, an 11. I don't like that option, right? Or we could do a sub for the root, but we can't do that because we'd have totally a flat 9 interval from there to the lead. Don't like that either. So that is an option, but then we have this leap here. Let's go with just good old chromatic, right? I think the chromatic might work out nicely. Let's try that. So it's going to be a D flat. And this is going to be a D flat. Doesn't look very much like D minor, does it? But we're going to make this definitely, we're going to have to do that. Definitely D flat, or D minor, right? So we're dropping, that's the 5th category, dropping the 3rd. Next one down is the root. So that's working out so good so far. 7th, and then we go down approximately an octave from there, and we get that. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of this so far, but let's see how it sounds. Let's keep this idea going. Drop 2, right? Drop 2. Sub in a root. Drop 2. So we can't sub for the 7 there, so maybe a good thing to do would be to sub in a root in the same octave. Drop 2 here, what do we get? And then a sub for that might be down here, if we do a drop 2, let's see, so then we have that, and then we can't sub for the 3rd in there, so we'd probably have to sub in that. So now we get, unfortunately, a repeated note here, which I'm not super happy about. Let's see how it sounds like that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop our video there. I think this is a good stopping point. I would definitely go back and do a little bit of editing to this, maybe to make it a little bit smoother. So for our next video, we'll start out with a saxophone rendering of the line we have so far, and then maybe we can kind of tweak a few things and talk about how that works. All right, but once again, this is it's a process. I mean, you guys see how long it took for us to do just these 5 bars. With a little bit of tweaking, and like I said, I'd probably do a little bit more tweaking. One, area definitely might be here, since my Barry sax is going to be up on a D. Not super high for the Barry sax, actually, but, maybe something to consider. Maybe I don't want the Barry so intense at that point. A couple other considerations in here. But I think at the end of the day, it does sound pretty good. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. We'll see you next time.